What we're going to show you here are a couple of weapons that Pedro Menendez Diablo and Ben brought to the world in September of 1565, a little over 453 years ago. Now, I'm sure you all recognize this as a crossbow, and back here we have the old cannon that we're going to fire for you. These two weapons had something in common in 1565. They were obsolete. And the reason that they're here is because they were cheap to buy. When you were the adelantado, the man who was first, or the guy who was putting together an expedition to the New World, you yourself were responsible for all the financing of your expedition. You had to rent the ships, get the sailors, get the men, get the equipment, and all the supplies. Now, this is quite an outlay of money. In fact, Menendez had to have 14 investors for the enterprise of Florida. So when you're spending that kind of money, you like to find ways to save, and he was looking for things like this, which were usable but not exactly going to cost him an arm and a leg. In fact, what he would do with these is he actually would sell them back to the soldiers, so he would get his money twice. In any case, we'll talk about the cannon in a minute. Let me tell you a little bit about the crossbow as it relates to St. Augustine. Now, we know there were at least 30 of them aboard the ships when they came here, and they were being brought here for a very important reason, and that is to act as a backup weapon for the gun at the time, the matchlock arquebus, which was the soldier's gun. Anytime from Ponce de Leon up through the end of the 16th century, that was the gun that the conquistadors used, as well as Menendez's men. Nothing changed much in the 16th century. Now, the problem with that gun was it took a long time to reload and fire it, 35 to 45 seconds. In that space of time, a Temucan warrior with a longbow could fire 5 well-aimed shots. These guys were good at it. The best of them could hit an individual target at 90 yards. Pretty good. So you had to do something, or all your guys in the country would be dead, so this is what they used. This was not a fast-loading weapon. You maybe could load it once every 15 seconds, but still, it was better than nothing. This would keep the enemy's heads down while you were loading. The one that I have in my hand is what I call a munitions grade crossbow. And what we're talking about is there's no decoration on this thing. There's no carving, no brass, no ivory, inlay, nothing like that. It's just a very simple, functional crossbow. This is the soldier's crossbow. Now the parts of it, the first part, the wooden part is called the stock, but also had another name. It was called the tiller. I think if you took everything off of this, it would look like it made a pretty good tiller on a rudder. This one's made of oak. Up here we have the stirrup. This is the prod or the limb of the crossbow. It's also in the 16th century it's called the bow. It's held onto the stock by what are known as bow irons. Now, what you have is you have 2 clamps up here at the top, and to tighten it up, if it got loose or you had to move the bow for any reason, all you had to do is take a hammer and hit these 2 wedges on the side, and it would tighten right back up. Bowstring. Back here we have what's known as the roller or the nut. It's held in place by this long S-shaped trigger called a tickler or a Spanish trigger. When you pull up on it, it releases and it rolls forward. The big spring here is to keep the wind from blowing your ammunition out of the small notch here on the table of the crossbow. And back here we have a pin that goes straight through the stock. Now I'll be honest with you, this is a target crossbow. I am shooting at a styrofoam target. I don't need the kind of heavy crossbows that Menendez brought here. He brought war bows, anywhere between 250 to 320 foot-pounds of torque, and the bowstring would have been maybe 4 or 5 times as thick. You probably could not even budget much with your arms, so you needed some help. Now, I have a good thing right here, or a tool they may have used. This is called a goat's foot lever. You'll notice the reason why is because of the 2 tines here at the bottom. They look like the 2 toes on a goat's foot. I know this looks like an instrument of medieval torture, but it's really just a lever. Here's how it works. Basically what you do is you put the hooks over the bowstring and the tines rest on the pins. Now, next thing you do is you brace it up against your thigh, grab a hold of the stirrup, line this up with the knot so it'll cock straight. Grab a hold of the handle, and there you go. Very easy to cock a very strong crossbow using this. Now, of course, you need something to shoot. And in my quiver, I have what are known as quarrels, or bolts. Our terms are interchangeable. Notice that these are only fletched on 2 sides. That's so it can lay flat here on this notch, and not interfere with the spring. Now these things were probably accurate to 40 yards mostly. This one is about 20 yards. There's no sights. You just simply know how it works. Aim. It's very easy to learn how to use a crossbow. It took maybe about, I guess about a couple hours. Then of course you had to practice. Now another use for these was for hunting. The nice thing about a crossbow, not a whole lot of noise. So if you miss the rabbit the first time, maybe you have a second chance and have some meat for the pot that night. Okay, well that's it for the crossbow. Thanks so much for listening. Let's move on to the cannon.
How you guys doing this afternoon?
Doing good.
Every time I shoot that thing, it goes out in the water, and then I gotta wait for low tide like it is now and wait out there and get it. It's scary. All right, we're gonna talk about cannons now. Now, your typical cannon would have been your cast iron muzzle-loaded cannon for the 1500s. Everything went down the muzzle. Your powder went down, your wadding went down, your cannonball go down. You fire it off, shoot a cannonball anywhere from 1.5 miles, some of them even up to 3 miles. Then you got to get a wet sponge on a long stick, shove it down there, make sure all the embers are out before you can reload it, or else the powder guy could risk blowing himself up. And that took time. And these would have been on your big ships, your big heavy galleons. What Pedro Menendez had here in 1565 was 20 old cannons. That is a reproduction of a cannon that would have been made in the late 1300s. For each charge, muzzle-loaded bombardetta cannon. Basically, they had a wooden dowel, they formed metal around it, and ended up with a metal tube to pull the dowel out. The key component is that cylinder you see on the ground there with the ring. It's called a servidor or powder mug. Each cannon would have several of those, and you would preload them with the powder and the wadding. Pick one up, it weighs about 60 pounds, just slide it in the back. There's this big block of wood called a breech block. You put that down behind it, kind of holds it in place. And your 6-pound solid iron cannonball is the only thing to go down the muzzle on that. Fire it off, it shoots that cannonball about 1 mile. 9/10 of a mile, the Bridge Alliance, I can shoot that far, I don't know if I can hit it. The effective range was much closer, between 1/2 mile and 3/4 of a mile. So it was a much weaker cannon. However, you didn't have to have the long sponge on the wet stick. No, that's not it. The wet sponge on the long stick, that's it. You didn't have to have that. You just pull the servidor out, slap a new one in, and roll a ball down. A team of guys gets fired at 3 to 4 times a minute. You got 20 cannons, that's 60 to 80 cannonballs going down range. That's rapid fire. Now this cannonball, solid iron cannonball, not very impressive. It doesn't blow up like in the Johnny Depp movies, doesn't bounce around. And against the big ships with the big cannons on there, probably wouldn't have been all that effective. But we're in luck, because the inlet back then was where the lighthouse is today, behind those trees. It was only about 9.5 feet deep during high tide. It wasn't very wide. There was a sandbar that kept moving around. You really couldn't bring your big ships with the big guns in here. You had to park them out in the ocean, and you would come in either your longboat or your chalupa. Now, chalupa is not just a taco at Taco Bell, guys. It's an actual Spanish workboat. We got one moored on the other side of this watchtower. This cannonball, traveling at 400 miles an hour, was very effective against the longboats and the chalupas. Could go right through the side. So if you're the invading force, if you're coming in and your boat gets hit, you're lucky enough to survive the impact and the splintering. Now you're in the water with all that armor on. And for some reason we can't get a bead on you and you keep getting closer and closer, we're going to switch over to grape shot, effectively turn our 20 cannons into 20 shotguns. So even though they're old and weak and obsolete, they were still very effective for protecting this area. Now the formula to fire a cannonball is whatever the cannonball weighs, 6 pounds, half of that weight in gunpowder is used. We did not put 3 pounds of gunpowder in there. After Rick fires it off, I'll tell you how much we used. I think you'll be surprised. The other thing is we are not firing a cannonball. That's point over at Volano Pier. People there having drinkies, enjoying the afternoon. We can't be lobbing cannonballs at them. But if you look closely, you may see the wadding fly out. We're using Spanish moss to the wadding. Now I'm going to give them 2 commands. I'm going to say por España, which means for Spain, fuego, and he will fire the cannon. It's not going to be deafening, but if you have sensitive hearing or if there's any little kids, you're going to want to plug your ears. Everybody else, you can get your device out, so you record the event and watch it over and over and over. That's what I do. All right, guys, here we go. You ready? Ready. Por España, fuego!
Oh, that was a lot. You done got that bird, too.
Spell of history. Add a bonus. That was 2 ounces of gunpowder. 2 ounces. Can you imagine 3 pounds in there? All right, guys, that